Hello, YouTube and even BitChute friends, possibly, although I haven't posted on BitChute. YouTube is the go-to site. Still, after all this time. Considering the censorship and the shit that they put people through, it's still the go-to thing, I guess. Anyway, I just thought I'd stick my head out again and make a video. Short video, I don't know, long video, short video. I was just listening to a really fabulous presentation by a fellow I'd come across before a few years back, Dr. Shiva for President, the Dr. Shiva for President candidate. Magnificent human being. I found him compelling in everything he was saying. He made a lot of sense to me, especially compared to the jackals and the village idiots who are pretending to be leaders right now anywhere in the world. Actually, the way the system works is people that are put forward are totally incompetent. They have qualities that I would say they have qualities from the point of view they have handlers that instruct them how to capture docile-minded people. The docile minds gravitate towards literally these hyenas that have no value to us whatsoever. The Trumps, the Clans, the Clintons, the Kennedys, the Bidens, the work. I don't think there is anyone existing that I know of right now anywhere in the world. I'm not sure. There may be somebody that is of value to normal human beings, not just to their own clan. But he articulated very well what he calls the swarm, not the swamp. It's similar, but he wants to make sure he's not identified with the village idiot known as Trump. I had some thoughts when I was listening to him. Now, he's somewhat vulgar, but I shouldn't object because it's not a question of, oh, you can't use certain words because they're vulgar. It's the frequency. I prefer to use certain words with some restraint so they have more weight and value. So he refers to most of the establishment, the people that are running the joint, as being Zionist cocksuckers. Perfect. I mean, 100% correct. The system is based on, I would say that this is such a prevalent institution, this Zionist institution, wherever it came from in the 1800s, that hijacked what is understood to be the Hebrew religious scriptures, not even scriptures. They hijacked the idea of Jew as that they have some affiliation with Jews, but nothing is further from the truth. They're just an opportunist political organization that have hijacked for their purposes the idea of the chosen people. I guess they're all representing chosen people. They're chosen people. They laugh at us because they're the chosen people, the Zionists. And the conflicts that are going on has nothing to do with being Jewish, has to do, or a Jewish Arab, has to do with a political movement that is destabilizing not just the psyches, but the physical world of ordinary people that are caught up in these directives. I mean, it's all fabricated. All the stuff that's happening, whatever you hear, the world is not as it appears, which is very clear to Shiva, who articulates the actual reality, the nature of our reality in many ways. He's understanding this quite well. And the only objection I suppose I had is the frequency of what are considered to be words that highlight your feelings, swear words that highlight your feelings. I think it could be more effective used more efficiently, less frequently. Anyway, it's just a small thing. It's not a big thing, although it is something that impressed me. So the overall thing that what impressed me actually was he gave some numbers and specific he gave specific numbers to what I have called a threshold that needs to be met in order for there to be a general change in the psyche, in what he calls consciousness, what he refers to as people waking up. I've always had this wake up, wake up. When people tell me to wake up, go fuck yourself. It's not a matter of anybody telling anybody to wake up. You'll wake up when you're ready. You don't need me to tell you that. You're going to listen to something, and the likelihood of somebody saying wake up, it's not going to make anybody wake up. So people, when they're ready, will come to it. Now his numbers were interesting. He said 20% are what he considers to be people of conscience, or people that are conscious of what it is that they're involved in, the reality as which is a reality which is more accurate, under people who understand the accuracy, the fact of their existence, more than what it is that 80% of the population either doesn't know, they're reacting to things that they don't know most of the time. And out of those, he said 30% are the ones benefiting and they don't want any change. And the other 50% are just a bunch of dopey dingus types that go along with whatever. And he says once the 20% get motivated and active and help him, makes sense. Yeah, make him president. I would love to see the guy president. Um, he's never going to be president because the system is structured in such a way as to eliminate people like him. But at the same time, what he considers to be important is just being a voice. I 100% agree with this. Being a voice that articulates as well as he does the nature of our reality, the depravity of the nature of our reality, or as I say, these jackals who have hijacked through very nefarious means, using the knowledge, the understanding of our nature, human nature, the way he understands as well, the way ancients have understood healing, for example, something that I am very curious about, the idea of illness and healing in the last couple of years. Something that has impressed me, and I'll just sort of give my conclusion on what I'm feeling at this point, is that healing is intimately tied not just to a physical world, but an emotional, spiritual, ethereal world. In other words, the things that create our emotions, the domain of our existence as it refers to, you can call it spirit, or the immaterial world, is as crucial, or actually I'm beginning to believe it's more important than the physical domain, the interference that we attempt in order to balance our bodies. So when we get ill, we're out of balance in some way, physically and emotionally, intellect, whatever, that entire realm of existence that is not a piece of meat. So to bring things back into balance needs to be a coordinated effort between the spirit, the way we perceive ourselves as a spiritual being, and how we see ourselves as a physical being. And I think the physical world, in many ways, is much easier to address. But my comment here would also, what I'd like to say is that I haven't been able to get over the hump. I'm very optimistic, but I'm still out of balance. What has happened recently, I just as an update, um, I had a live blood test, and it appears like cancer doesn't show up in my blood. So I'm optimistic I don't have live cancer, or active cancer, let's say. It's there, it may not be there, I don't know. But what did show up was a candida. What is quite common, I think everybody has a version of candida. It's like those shitty bacteria that actually good bacteria eat the shitty bacteria. Candida doesn't have a chance if you're supplied with good bacteria. And the imbalance of good to bad. And I think I'm out of my good bacteria, and I have a suspicion of why. Uh, is because I did quite an extensive series of colonics over 8 months. And I think what happens when you do that, your good bacteria is depleted. I was also fasting. My diet was um, quite radically different from what it used to be, especially in terms of eliminating all the bad stuff and orienting myself towards a diet that would rejuvenate, the nourishment, like a pure, much more pure nourishment, rather than going with, the immediate solution. Is like you go to the bread basket and you butter yourself a toast and jam or peanut butter or whatever, all those go-to things. That the grains, I am not eating any of the grains, zero grains, especially if they're North American grains. You don't want to eat North American grains. If you're in the least bit vulnerable to or susceptible to being affected by these particular chemicals and molecules known as grains, wheat, I don't know, mosa, barley, oat, you name it, they're all doctored. They're all GMO. You cannot get a good grain. You cannot get a good piece of bread and eat it. Maybe if you go to the Hutterites or the Mennonites, they may still have some unaltered grains that they brought from Europe. Maybe they're good. So anyway, there's been an entire elimination of foods that I used to eat, and primarily I'm still primarily on a vegetarian path, although my curandera, uh, a woman that I'm seeing who is treating my body as an energetic as an energetic uh, combination of, I don't know what that is. We're energy. We're like when you get right down to it, we're like mysterious energies going on. Anyway, she's looking at me from an energetic point of view. And what was I going to say? There it goes. Gone. Uh, what was I saying about diet and having having the right kind of recreating the balance. That's it. Yes, and she's like quite. She eats meat, but she knows where the meat comes from, and so there is this sort of uh, this beef kind of fat, the tallow, that sort of thing that feeds. Apparently, the brain is very requiring of that. I do have sardines and fish, and so I'm not entirely vegetarian, but I would say 80%. Now, in terms of my candida, I've cut out any cheese and milk products, butter, any of that. I still did have that before, but I'm no longer doing that. So anyway, it's something that I believe can be reversed, and it's now. Here's my point, though. What I was thinking and noodling on, and the idea of healing, and the fact that I feel I'm kind of stuck in a certain way, is very much linked to the concept, the the spirit part of me, having come through the atrocities of culture and civilization. My spirit has been broken on many levels. These are emotional subterraneous caverns that I probably will never truly understand, although I get the big picture here. I've made many videos on culture, as Terence McKenna said, who blew his brains out basically with psilocybin and mushrooms and shit that he was doing. I think he got a brain tumor. So be aware, be careful, people, with that. Shiva was making a reference to that as well, that it's not a good idea. You need to be able to really handle that. And McKenna was he was an, what do you call that? An adept in many ways, but he developed a brain tumor. So early, 52, 53. Be careful. So the idea the idea behind healing is it has multiple layers. When we go through something that is considered to be an illness, it basically just says you're out of balance. And especially with cancer, and Cliff High referred to this as being a metabolic condition. It's not an illness per se. So we have conditions within us that are referred to as illness, but they're much more far reaching than just being something even out of balance. There is something that is, I'm going to be a little esoteric here, and I'm saying this is a journey, a lesson in terms of a spiritual growth and awareness. Something that this Dr. Shiva touches on, but very specifically, he has a goal in mind. He has a goal in changing the attitude of people on earth so that we have a fair shake at, at being able to accomplish when we're here, the short time that we're here, that we can get something happening that makes the world a better place, not leave it in a pile of shit. He refers to this quite often, to leave a fragrance, not a stink when we leave. So my connection to the idea of healing is intimately connected to this path. The idea of healing is not just doing the right things physically, but doing the right things within the mind. And the mind isn't just up here. The mind is the entire body. Every cell has a mind. Every cell is a version of the whole. It's kind of like that holographic universe idea where everything is represented in its smallest, like, cauliflower thing. Every time you open a cauliflower, it just becomes more and more and more. Who was that? The Mandelbrot set or whatever. It's that the idea. The Mandelbrot is a fractal. It's a continuous kind of thing. And that makes sense to me. I think that we're not just located in the brain, although the brain is a powerful organ. And apparently it takes 20% of the energy while only having 2 or 3% of the, or 5% or less of the mass of the body. 2%, I think. 20% energy, only 2% of the mass of the body. Phenomenal. So obviously there's something, there's something important going on, but it's not just up there. So the idea of being able to overcome something, to go through an experience that is called illness, some more severe, some less severe, but everything indicates imbalance, is intimately connected to the idea of progressing through a spiritual growth. And when I say spiritual growth, it is devoid of the pitfalls of all those emotional things that keep us tied down, that keep us in a state of anxiety, fear, the things that really don't work for us, but seem to impose themselves. And when I say fear, I don't mean like going into a jungle, being totally fearless and getting eaten by a lion. You have to have a level of realistic fear about certain circumstances. It's not that kind of a fear. It's a fear. And here's where I falter, because I don't totally understand that fear, because it's rooted in an experience that may have been imposed on me through what I consider to be culture and civilization, inadvertently and by intent. Inadvertently from the point of view that the people in my life early on, my parents, teachers, they didn't really have a clue. So they couldn't counter the negative influences, even though they had my best interest at heart. I'm convinced of this. My parents were good people, but they were not able to understand the world on this complex level of how our characters are formed. And then these residual influences, these darker influences, these residual influences manifest themselves, for example, in different kinds of profound fears, irrational fears, something that doesn't make sense, but it's influencing us. And it can't just be cut out, which is why I'm quite engaged with this curandera, who is asserting to me that most of our physical imbalances or illnesses are rooted in both physical and emotional trauma. And the mind doesn't distinguish. She says the mind doesn't distinguish between a physical event and an emotional event. So we could be relatively free of physical traumas in the past, although I think everybody has them. You fall down, you hurt yourself badly, or break something, or near-death experience, whatever level of physical experience trauma that we've had, we were, somebody tried to murder you, whatever that might be, that is one aspect. The other side of our imbalance is when the emotional parts get so damaged, our emotional self, that spiritual side to us gets so damaged that it begins to influence the physical world because, as she puts it, the pathways to healing that the mind gives us is subverted to those traumas. So the traumas take over. As an example, you have irrational fears about stuff. I've experienced irrational fears, even from the point of view of the white coats. When I was first introduced and I was told my condition, there was an irrational fear. It wasn't just, oh, geez, I'm sick or something. There was an irrational fear. I had a peculiar sensation that something I had lost control of and that was influencing me. And at the same time, I have a self-preservation within me that also said, these people that call themselves white coats will never touch me. I will not let them touch me in relation to what it is that I was experiencing going through. And this was something that, again, where did that come from? How would I have known that? It was like an instinct that I had. And people that stay true to their instincts are much more likely to survive and flourish than just sort of taking what anybody says for you to do. Like in the political circumstance, even there, people say, oh, believe this guy, believe this guy. Go with your feelings of what makes sense, and don't go with the dogma that comes from conditioning or whatever. And dogma changed from godma. It used to be godma, but now it's dogma. In all religions are dogma. They may have had godma, but it turned all into dogma. Bar none, the whole bunch, the whole lot. There's no value. There's culturally, within civilization, the idea of religion makes no sense from the point of view of dogma, unless it's godma. Anyway, this video is, Dr. Shiva is an ally, a soul, a deep soul, a brilliant mind, apparently, he has 4 PhDs from MIT, I think. A guy who knows his way through a book, a complex book. I imagine, just to a great extent, the complexity of the mystery as well. He has identified the mystery from his level of knowledge, intellect, wisdom. I'm coming from the mystery not so much from his technical expertise, although I can wield a hammer and a drill and I can build shit, and I can construct stuff. I've done that. I don't know how my nephew too is very adept. He picked it up himself virtually. I think it must be a trait, a genetic thing. We know how to fix shit and do stuff, practically speaking, but I'm coming at it from the angle, I'm approaching the mystery from the point of view of that side of my nature that is less material. And I wouldn't say Shiva is a materialist. I'm saying that he makes the connection on a material level more directly, where I go more to the symbol part of it. I have an attraction toward creating an image, for example, called a painting or a version of, that represents my wisdom, not to building a bridge, but, well, to building a bridge toward our spirit, to make a connection to the mystery through the symbols, the colors, the vibrations, all the complex aspects within a work of art that a person who's so inclined will appreciate. And there aren't that many. Even within that group of 20% that he says, I suspect there might be 0.0001% of that group that has any kind of maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think for the most part uh, the population, even those that are considered to be awake, have much of an art interest or consciousness. The few people that do are very special. I find that there is a very small number of people. I'm not even talking about the expertise of being able to connect to the mystery through your art. I'm talking about an appreciation of it, that, the way kids look at something and uh, feel connected to it. I love this experience. There was a girl. She's maybe 5 years old. She came with her mom. It was actually my curandera. She came by to visit the studio with her daughter and her son. And the son was 14, I think, and the daughter is 5. And it was, she wasn't too impressed to start with. And she started looking at some paintings and still not too impressed. I pulled out some, what I called my watercolors, and she really tweaked on them. And she really connected to them. And I think this is a very good sign in terms of something being in the right direction. It's like something, when a child connects to something that you do, there is additional significance for me, because it's uncensored, um, I would say unencumbered appreciation. Whereas a lot of people have to come towards something, unlearn things, and learn too. So, adults appreciating have to go through an unlearning process to really be able to appreciate. So there is a bit of an obstacle, or let me put it this way. I have I have more trust in children appreciating something than adults. And for the most part, we've been we've been um, encouraged not to be able to respond to something that we see. We always see like a precursor of it. Like we experience something, and then we let it filter through what is called culture and civilization, dogma. We were told how we have to look at something, right? This is sort of how it works. Okay, I'm getting off topic. My point is today is this sort of getting over the hump idea. What is going to get me over the hump, really? It's, is it more water fasting? Is it more supplements, or is it treatments? Is it and I've ended all the treatments that I was doing for about close to a year, maybe, no, not that long. Anyway, I've stopped most of that, and I'm just eating my, what I consider to be a very clean diet. I can do better. I know I can do better in terms of uh, different aspects of diet. Also includes fasting. So I think the two are related. Diet and fasting need to go together. And I haven't fasted for a while now. I did water fasting. I did juice fasting. I'm staying still away from the juice, because juice is a very potent sugar, has a very potent sugar part of it. Even if you're juicing, unless it's like pure, like a chlorophyll or something. I'm talking about carrot, beets, celery, that kind of juice that I was doing. Um, I'm not going into the juice part, because I'm still, a bit of EBGB. Certain cells prefer to be fed by that sugary kind of thing. And you can't avoid that. You can't avoid the carbs and the sugars unless you're 100% meat, fat kind of stuff. But I conceptually, spiritually, I have a hard time with that. Um, anyway, that's something may change for me there, but at this point, I'm having trouble with that. To be totally like that fat-oriented diet. So my update is, number one, I listened to this extraordinary person. He lays it out. He exposes what I said. The next shit show will be delivered by a saint. He clearly identifies the jackals, like he calls them Booby Kennedy. I love this. I said Booby RFK Jr. Is the poster child for the next saint who's going to deliver the shit show that we're going to see. So he's absolutely 100% right. These people are all constructs within a fake reality. a reality that is being imposed, it's, as he says, an illusion. As Carlin pointed out, George Carlin was magnificent in this. He had his own problems, but he was magnificent in the illusion of reality, and the people just embrace the illusion and avoid the fact. Like the fake pandemic. The fake pandemic. The 70-80% of the population embraced the fake pandemic and just won't give up on it. That 20% core group knows, but that threshold, as he says, is being met at 20%. And I cross my fingers. I hope so. I mean, just even psychically, we make our contribution through our psyches. It's not just a physical, like he wants you to hand out cards and all this. But the more important part, as far as I'm concerned, in this reality that is surrounded, we're surrounded and part of a mystery that has nothing to do with blood and guts and bags of blood. It's the bones. No, it's a psychic reality that is influenced. The threshold of what he calls that 20% will have the major impact will be through the psyche. That's what I believe, which is why I do paintings and art. I think art has a powerful influence just by making it, even if no one sees it, there is an influence on that reality. That's how I see it. I'm convinced of that. So my path, if what I need to be able to embrace is this new me, another version of me that may have been dormant, that may have been repressed, and how do I liberate this part within me? I put faith in the lady I'm seeing to be able to redirect the energies within me and allow my mind, the larger mind within me, not just the brain, to redirect, open, that she's able to open the pathways for my mind to redirect and instruct the balancing of me. So uh, I don't know how radical a concept this is. I don't believe it is radical. People that are capable of affecting the well-being of another person always needs to have this component within their treatment. So if you go to a white coat and he's just banging away at nails, their hammers banging away at nails, you're not gonna heal. You may be influenced, your chemical natures may be influenced, but more importantly, your psychic part will be reinforced not to heal. This is why there is no cure from these bastards. They cannot embrace the idea that the holistic part of us includes the mind. Their attitude about us, what they wish for us, is absolutely instrumental, and I can guarantee the system as it exists does not want you to be well. It is not interested in your well-being. This is one of the illusions, that all the institutions within civilization and culture exist for your benefit. Au contraire, mon ami. The entire system exists to profit and benefit a small group of people, as George Carlin calls the owners. Shiva calls them the ruling class, the swarm. This is what everything pushes towards. So any institution that you encounter will never have your best interest at heart. So you need to incorporate that. If you don't have the instinct behind that, you need to tell yourself that, because otherwise you're fucked. You need to reorient the mind to work for you, which means eliminate all the stuff that doesn't work that's out there. And just it's just a question of opening your eyes. The endless wars, the economic hardships, the literally the slavery of people being tied to jobs they hate, for example. This is all an indication the system isn't working on a personal level. It's not just on a macro level, it's individually. People, the unhappiness in a person, the fundamental unhappiness needs to be addressed, and the institutions will never do that. The opposite. They will make you fearful, unhappy, anxious, all that stuff. So I'm saying, actually, every time I have an encounter with a white coat, because I'm still sort of on the periphery, keeping them on board because they have technologies that might help, but I'm losing interest in that as well. I'm going to separate myself entirely from the white coats, with the exception of possibly some traumatic event that requires intervention that is very short term. I'm still open to the possibility that there may be people who have interventions when it becomes a, a physical trauma event, like you break your arm or something like that. And what do I do? Is like set it myself? No. So yeah, that's it. I think Shiva is part of the solution. Dr. Shiva, MIT PhD, Dr. Shiva, president. Please become president. He's down south. He's not up here. And in terms of the overall picture of healing, we need to discard the dogma on every level and re-educate ourselves, which is what I believe I'm going through. Re-education. I'm going through Jordan Peterson's re-education. There's another hack. Jordan Peterson, what a fucking hack he is. He's another one of those so-called saints who will deliver the next shit show. So beware of Jordan Peterson. He's going through re-education for opening his pie hole, and they hammered him. I think by intent. They want to show how, oh, you know what? You can actually overcome the system by being like Jordan Peterson, impeccably dressed. He's like to the T's, and he always has that frown. He has that intellectual frown. He looks at you, and when he frowns, you know he's serious, and you got to take him seriously. Shut the fuck up and take him seriously. Anyway, yeah, forget the saints. There won't be a saint that will deliver the shit show. There will be just a good, wholesome human being. Unless you show me otherwise, Dr. Shiva looks like a good candidate to be a wholesome human being, to push the critical mass, forward, both physically and psychically. So, don't know if this helps. 36 minutes, okay, probably enough. I don't know. Milk thistle. I love coffee. I have a dark roast coffee, and I mix the different medicinal mushrooms, shaga, reishi, cordyceps, lion's mane, turkey tail, into the coffee. My blood guy said not a good idea because the alkalinity of the mushrooms are neutralized by the acidity in the coffee. Well, you know what? There's not just alkalinity present in mushrooms. There's a lot of other, probably hundreds of different things. So go ahead and drink your coffee with the mushrooms. He said he didn't say not do it. He says it's useless. I beg to differ. But anyway, I'm having some milk thistle tea. I do it in the afternoon. I do soursop tea in the morning whenever I remember. Again, I could do better. And reorienting my life over the last year and a half, close to 2 years, towards a healing that fundamentally and ultimately will be based on my spirit, that part that connects me to the mystery, on a level that is more than just physical. And this is the I think I've hit a stumbling block here. I think I can't get what I say over the hump because there's an affliction, different issues going on. One of them, I think I mentioned this too, though. This is something very insidious because I was 5 years ago. I was administered for 3 days heavy-duty antibiotics, and it was a particular antibiotic called as ciprofloxacin or something. And so I have ended up, after a couple of years, it began with what is called ciproneuropathy, which is a destruction of the ends of the nerves. And nerves can rebuild themselves over time. So I'm not too I am concerned about it because there is a general weakness that goes along with that condition as well. There's different levels. Some people have actually died from this cipro poisoning. Stay away from all antibiotics if you can find out before they administer them that are cipro, that have a prefix of cipro. You don't want it. You don't want this because different people have different responses, and I've heard some people have been terribly, terribly affected, are like incapable of moving anymore. It's like really bad, and some have even died. So in my case, it's a numbing of the toes and a general weakness, usually in my in my left arm. It's kind of like, I don't understand, is like it comes and goes, but may also be related to the idea. Candida is a kind of imbalance that also creates weakness. So yeah, anyway, just updating a bit. My excitement about having come across Shiva, I saw him before, the Swarm Man. Um, and that's about it. Yeah, I'll if I'm inspired, I'll make another video at some point. I haven't done one for a while. I'm let's see. Here's the other. Okay, I'll say one more thing about a reorientation in terms of our psyche. Without joy, it's very difficult to proceed in life, period. If you wake up in the morning and there isn't some level of joy, it becomes very difficult to navigate the day. And those difficulties compound over time, obviously, and create imbalances as well. So one of the exercises of, it's like these hidden emotional traumas and things, for whatever reason, are there. One of the tools that I believe we have in order to redirect this is to begin consciously to create joy where there isn't. And joy is something that can result from very simple things. Like I have mentioned this before, the idea, I wake up in the morning, whether or not I feel good or bad, doesn't matter. I say thank you. There's the first words in my mind thought is a thank you. And then it proceeds from there to have a true appreciation of all the things that will actually, or just acknowledge the fact that there are many things that make me feel really good about myself and being part of something, like the mystery in the large sense of the word, but in specific, our cat comes up and starts rubbing up to me. So there's many different ways of developing this sense of joy, this wanting to wake up and experiencing and going through things. And even the difficult things that happen need to be appreciated as a path. That's what I was trying to say as well, in terms of healing. Without the joy, there is no healing. And it's difficult to feel joy when you're in the fucking trenches of some kind of a pain you're going through, or worry, or whatever it might be. It's not easy. So this is a challenge. I have understood this as a challenge. So I have not felt the joy that I used to feel. My excitement about even coming to the studio and doing work in the studio is not what it used to be. But it takes effort. It takes work. So anyway, that maybe that helps in terms of identifying. I don't know, call it a strategy, I guess. You can call it a strategy, a protocol, the joy protocol. Maybe I have to do a video on the joy protocol, how to work on that to displace the opposite of joy, which is grief, which is anxiety, fear, all those darker elements that preoccupy us and push aside the joy. And we need to recreate whatever it is, whatever it takes to push aside that. And the way to do that is to build on that part in us that feels the joy, whatever it might be. Could be simple, could be complex, whatever. Anyway, signing out from the studio. All the best.